It was 11:51 at night when my phone screen lit up the dark bedroom. A group text from my sister. Natalie, I squinted at the bright glass and read the message that was about to burn my family to the ground. She said it would be best if I stayed home from her wedding. Her exact words were that my single, older vibe would ruin the bridal party aesthetic, and Trevor's wealthy parents would judge them. My chest tightened. I stopped breathing for a second. Then a new notification popped up. Our mother, Catherine, had hearted the message. A second later, Mom sent a follow-up text telling me to just make sure the final vendor checks were mailed out by Friday so the country club would keep the catering order. She skipped any hint of an apology and went straight to demanding my money while erasing me from the pictures. I stared at the glowing screen until the words blurred into meaningless shapes. The absolute audacity of it hit me like a physical weight. I am 34 years old. I work as a high school vice principal in Charlotte, North Carolina. I spend 40 hours a week dealing with entitled teenagers, managing tantrums, and enforcing discipline. Yet, somehow, I had let my own mother guilt trip me into fully funding my 27-year-old sister's dream wedding. Natalie wanted to be a micro-influencer. Everything in her life was curated, filtered, and paid for by someone else. Mainly me. For years, Catherine had weaponized my independence against me. She called it my duty as the older, established single sister to provide for the golden child. I had drained $45,000 from my savings to pay for the country club, the imported floral arches, and the 5-course plated dinner, just hoping to finally earn a seat at my own family's table. That single text message shattered the illusion completely. They did not see me as a sister, or a daughter, or even a guest. To them, I was just an automated teller machine with a pulse. I was a resource. And my utility had run out the moment the deposits were secured. A cold, absolute clarity washed over me. I locked my phone and set it on the nightstand. I went to sleep. And for the first time in months, my jaw was not clenched. The next morning, I bypassed all the emotional bureaucracy. I ignored the group chat. I ignored the instinct to demand an explanation. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the master contracts for the wedding. My name was the only signature on those documents. I was the sole legal client. I picked up my phone and called the country club's event coordinator. I informed her that the event title was changing. It was no longer Natalie and Trevor's wedding. I was legally reassigning the entire $45,000 reservation, including the catering and the floral arrangements, to host the Charlotte High School Faculty Appreciation Gala. I instructed the venue's private security to enforce a strict new guest list that I would provide. I then arranged for the event to be documented as a charitable donation for a massive tax write-off. By Tuesday afternoon, the vendors began calling Natalie to confirm the sudden changes. My phone started vibrating off my desk. First, it was a text from Natalie asking what the florist meant about a school gala. Then came 3 missed calls from Mom. Then a barrage of 40 frantic, escalating text messages demanding I fix whatever glitch was happening with the venue. I read every single message. I answered absolutely none of them. Their panic was a living thing, thrashing against the absolute wall of my silence. On Thursday, Catherine finally realized the money was truly gone. She left a vicious voicemail demanding I stop throwing a tantrum and fix the misunderstanding immediately. threatening to cut me out of the family if I ruined her daughter's special day. I forwarded that voicemail, along with a screenshot of the original late-night text uninviting me, to my cousin Brooke. Brooke had always seen through the family facade. She hated the toxic dynamic just as much as I did. Within an hour, Brooke had quietly emailed that screenshot and the voicemail to every single person on the wedding guest list. She added a brief note explaining exactly why the country club event was canceled. The fallout was spectacular. With only 2 weeks left and zero budget, Natalie was forced to move her aesthetic-obsessed ceremony to a public park on the outskirts of town. Brooke sent me a single photo from the day. It featured a beige pop-up tent, plastic folding chairs on uneven grass, and a Bluetooth speaker sitting on a picnic table. Natalie looked utterly miserable. Her curated image shattered. I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, breathing in the quiet morning air, entirely at peace. But toxic entitlement rarely surrenders easily. A week after the disastrous park wedding, my phone buzzed with an automated fraud alert from my bank. Someone had just charged $15,000 for 2 first-class tickets to Hawaii. My blood ran cold. I immediately logged into my account and saw the pending transaction. I knew exactly who it was. Natalie had recently signed a sponsorship deal with a bridal brand, promising a week of luxury honeymoon content. Failing to produce that content meant breach of contract and public humiliation. She was desperate. I pulled up the feed from the nanny cam hidden in my living room bookshelf. I scrolled back to the last time my mother and sister had visited my house to guilt trip me about the wedding budget. The footage was crystal clear. While I was in the kitchen making tea, Natalie had slipped over to my entryway table, rummaged through my purse, and snapped photos of the front and back of my credit card. She even opened a piece of my mail to memorize the billing zip code. She had stolen my identity right under my roof. I did not call her to scream. I did not warn my mother. I downloaded the video file, drove straight to the bank, and filed a formal felony wire fraud affidavit. The bank manager took one look at the footage and immediately initiated a hard chargeback. This automated process directly flagged the transaction with the airline. The tickets were voided instantly. Meanwhile, my phone chimed with a text from Brooke. She told me the family was losing their minds trying to find out who leaked the guest list. She wrote that she had blocked them all and moved her flight to Denver a week early for her new job, wishing me luck with the final fallout. Brooke was safe, and the board was perfectly set. I waited until the exact morning of their flight. I pictured Natalie and Trevor rolling their designer luggage into the Charlotte airport, completely smug, ready to escape the humiliation of their ruined wedding. According to the police report I received later, that is exactly how it happened. They approached the first-class check-in desk and handed over their passports. The ticketing agent typed in their confirmation number, frowned, and informed them their tickets were invalid due to a reported fraud flag. Trevor demanded a manager. Natalie exploded. She slammed her hands on the counter, screaming at the staff, throwing a massive entitled tantrum right in the middle of the crowded terminal. Her screaming drew the immediate attention of airport security and the local police officers stationed nearby. The officers approached to de-escalate the disturbance. When they ran Trevor and Natalie's names through the system, the federal wire fraud flag attached to the voided tickets lit up. Right there, in front of hundreds of onlookers. The police detained them for attempting to fly on stolen, fraudulently purchased tickets. Their smugness shattered into total public humiliation as they were escorted away in tears. Trevor's wealthy family, terrified of a public scandal, completely cut them off the moment the news broke. 2 days later, Catherine showed up on my front porch. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling. She pounded on the door until I finally opened it. She stood there, weeping, begging me to call the bank, to drop the charges, to tell the police it was all a big misunderstanding. She sobbed that I was ruining my sister's life, that family forgives family, that blood is thicker than pride. I looked at the woman who had spent my entire life trading my well-being for her favorite daughter's comfort. I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no grief, just the hollow, empty space where a mother should have been. I handed her a printed piece of paper. It was a blood copy of the text message from that night at 11:51. I don't have a sister. I said, my voice was completely flat, and you need to leave my property before I call the police on you. I shut the heavy wooden door. I turned the deadbolt. The sharp click echoed in the hallway, sounding exactly like freedom. She cried on the porch for 10 more minutes before finally driving away. The aftermath of cutting out toxic family is rarely loud. It is mostly just quiet. The judge eventually sentenced Natalie to probation and hundreds of hours of community service, ordering full restitution for the legal fees. But the real punishment was her ruined reputation. The bridal sponsor dropped her. Her social media went dark. But the most profound change was inside my own house. The relentless anxiety, the constant waiting for the next financial emergency, the heavy guilt of never being good enough, it all evaporated. If you are listening to this and you are the one holding your family together while they tear you apart, I want you to hear me very clearly. Society conditions us to believe that family is an unbreakable contract. We are taught that you must absorb the abuse, the financial drain, and the emotional manipulation simply because you share a last name. We are told to be the bigger person, but being the bigger person to a narcissist just gives them a larger target to hit. Walking through this fire taught me 3 absolute rules about survival. Rule number 1, blood is a biological fact. But family is a behavioral choice. You are not obligated to finance your own disrespect. If someone only loves you for what you can provide, they do not love you. They love the resource. The moment you cut off the supply, their true character is revealed. Rule number 2, silence is the ultimate weapon against a toxic person. They feed on your emotional reaction. They want you to scream, to cry, to beg for an explanation. Because as long as you are reacting, they are in control of the narrative. When you starve them of your emotions and execute your boundaries with cold, quiet precision, they destroy themselves trying to get a reaction out of you. Rule number 3, forgiveness does not require reconciliation. You can let go of the anger holding you down without ever giving those people access to your life again. You can forgive them from a distance. You can wish them well right after you change the locks. Today, my life is filled with chosen family. Friends who check on me without needing a favor. Colleagues who respect my time. A cousin in Denver who sends me postcards just to say hello. The peace I have now is worth every single tear it took to get here. Have you ever been the reliable one who was treated like an endless ATM? How did you finally break the cycle of guilt and walk away? Tell me your story in the comments below. And if you have been waiting for a sign or for permission to finally walk away from toxic blood today, this is it. You owe them nothing, and you owe yourself everything. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there thinking, How on earth did a smart vice principal hand over $45,000 in the first place? Why did it take her so long to finally cut the cord? It is incredibly easy to judge from the outside, but let me explain a psychological trap called the slot machine effect, officially known as intermittent reinforcement. When you grow up in a toxic family system, especially as the reliable older sibling, you are not stupid. You are conditioned. A narcissistic family operates exactly like a rigged casino. 99% of the time, they take your resources, ignore your boundaries, and treat you like a walking automated teller machine. But that 1% of the time, they toss you a crumb of validation, a fake compliment, an invitation to participate in a wedding. You keep pulling the lever, spending your hard-earned money and draining your energy, addicted to the false hope that this time you will finally hit the jackpot of their unconditional love. Vanessa was not foolish. She was trapped in an emotional casino, but let us analyze how she ultimately broke the house. This story is an absolute masterclass in financial self-defense. Notice the street-smart moves she made when the blinders finally came off. Move number 1, contract control. When she decided to pull the plug, she avoided begging the vendors for a refund or screaming at her sister. She recognized her leverage. She was the sole legal signatory on the venue contract. By legally reassigning the food and flowers to a charity, she secured a massive tax write-off and bypassed the family entirely. Entitled people rely on your emotional reactions. They hate the fine print. Always maintain control of the paperwork. Move number 2, building the case. When the $15,000 fraudulent flight charge hit her account, she completely skipped the family group chat. She went straight to the nanny cam, pulled the video evidence, and filed a formal felony wire fraud affidavit with her bank. She stopped treating her family like blood and started treating them like hostile liabilities. She let the bank and the airport police handle the confrontation, removing herself from the chaos. Move number 3, the buyout. When her mother stood on the porch weeping and begging her to drop the charges, Vanessa refused to negotiate. She handed over the printed text message and locked the door. Sometimes the money you lost to a toxic family member is just the final invoice you pay for your freedom. You are essentially buying them out of your life forever. A year after Natalie was escorted out of the Charlotte airport in handcuffs, I stood alone in the same country club ballroom where her dream wedding was supposed to happen, only this time the room was filled with teachers. There were no imported floral arches arranged for fake influencer photos, no ice sculptures, no 5-course dinner meant to impress Trevor's wealthy parent. Just long tables covered in simple white linens, laughter echoing beneath the chandeliers, and exhausted educators finally being celebrated for surviving another brutal school year. The catering I paid for did not go to people who uninvited me after taking my money. It went to the biology teacher who stayed late every Thursday tutoring failing students. It went to the janitor who knew every child's name. It went to the guidance counselor who kept granola bars in her desk because too many kids came to school hungry. For the first time, that $45,000 did not feel stolen. It felt redirected. I stood near the back of the room, watching my colleagues dance badly to an old pop song, and felt something loosen in my chest. The money had been gone either way. The difference was that I had finally chosen where my sacrifice ended. Catherine tried to reach me twice after that night on my porch. The first time, she sent a birthday card with no apology inside. Just a photo of Natalie as a child tucked between 2 Bible verses about forgiveness. The second time, she sent a long email claiming she was seeing a counselor and learning how everyone played a part in what happened. Everyone played a part. That sentence told me everything. It meant she was still trying to spread the blame thin enough that nobody had to hold it. It meant she still believed my hurt was an inconvenience. My boundaries were cruelty, and Natalie's crimes were just unfortunate mistakes caused by pressure. So I did what the old version of me could never have done. I deleted the email. I did not print it. I did not forward it to Brooke. I did not write a long, shaking reply explaining why she was wrong. I simply deleted it and went back to making coffee. That was the day I understood I was truly free. Not because Natalie was punished, not because Catherine cried on my porch, not because Trevor's family cut them off and the bridal sponsor vanished overnight. Those were consequences. Yes, but consequences are not the same thing as healing. Healing was silence, no longer feeling like abandonment. Healing was looking at my savings account, smaller than it used to be, but entirely mine, and realizing no one had access to guilt me into draining it again. Healing was coming home after work, setting my bag by the door, and not bracing myself for a crisis that somehow required my wallet. For years, I had mistaken exhaustion for loyalty. I thought being dependable meant saying yes before anyone even asked. I thought love meant covering the deposit, writing the check, smoothing the conflict, swallowing the insult, and smiling in family photos like I had not paid to be excluded from them. But real love does not require you to disappear so someone else can sparkle. Natalie wanted a perfect wedding aesthetic. Catherine wanted a perfect golden child. Trevor wanted perfect wealthy in-laws. And me, I only wanted a seat at the table. That was the saddest part. I was not asking for worship. I was not asking for repayment. I was not even asking them to understand how much the money had cost me. I just wanted to be included in the family I had been funding for years. Instead, they handed me proof that the table was never meant for me. So I built a different one. Brooke came back from Denver for Thanksgiving that year. She arrived with a suitcase full of thrifted sweaters, 2 bottles of wine, and absolutely no patience for family guilt. We ate takeout on my living room floor because I had not bought a proper dining table yet. At one point, she looked around the room and said, this is the first holiday that doesn't feel like a hostage situation. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. And maybe I did cry a little, but not from grief, from relief. That is what people do not understand about walking away from toxic family. They imagine it as one dramatic door slam, one final speech, one clean ending. But it is not that simple. The door closes in one moment, but your nervous system takes longer to believe it. You still reach for your phone when it buzzes. You still feel guilt rise in your throat when someone says family. You still wonder if maybe you were too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. Then one day, you wake up and realize you have not thought about them all morning. And that ordinary peace feels like a miracle. Natalie's online life never recovered. She tried to rebrand herself as a victim of family betrayal. Then as a mental health advocate, then as a budget bride rebuilding after public humiliation. But the internet has a longer memory than narcissists expect. Every attempt to rewrite the story was met with screenshots, comments, and questions she could not answer. Eventually, she disappeared from the platform she once worshipped. Catherine moved into a smaller house after selling half her jewelry to cover Natalie's legal fees. I heard that from a former neighbor, not because I asked, but because people love delivering news they think will reopen old wounds. It did not. I felt no joy at her decline, but I felt no urge to rescue her either. That balance took me a long time to learn. You do not have to celebrate someone's suffering to refuse responsibility for fixing it. You can feel compassion from a distance. You can wish them clarity, growth, even peace. But you do not have to offer them your home, your bank account, or your nervous system as the price of their redemption. Forgiveness, if it ever comes, will be mine. It will not be a key I hand back to people who prove they cannot be trusted with a door. These days, my life is smaller in the best possible way. My mornings are quiet. My weekends belong to me. My money goes toward things that actually feed my future savings. Travel, therapy, good shoes, and the scholarship fund I quietly started for students who age out of foster care and have no one writing checks for them. Every year, I donate the same amount Natalie tried to steal for those Hawaii tickets, $15,000. The first time I signed that scholarship check, my hand trembled, not because I was sad, but because the number no longer represented theft. It represented choice. It represented the moment I stopped being a resource for people who despised me and became a resource for people building something real. That is how you take your power back. Not by becoming cruel, by becoming unavailable to cruelty. So if you are listening to this while being treated like the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who always pays, always fixes, always forgives, I need you to hear me clearly. You are not a family emergency fund. You are not a backup plan with a heartbeat. You are not selfish for refusing to finance people who would not even save you a chair. The people who truly love you will not require you to buy your place in their lives. They will not take your money and then call your presence embarrassing. They will not ask for sacrifice while offering humiliation in return. And if they do, believe the transaction for what it is. Not love, access. My name is Vanessa. I lost $45,000 chasing a seat at a table that was never built for me. Then I used the paperwork, the receipts, and the truth to walk away with something far more valuable. My peace. My home is locked now. My phone is quiet. My money is protected. My holidays are calm. And the family I have today is not tied together by guilt, image, or obligation. It is tied together by choice. If you have ever been used as the reliable one, the bank account, the fixer, or the silent sacrifice, tell me when you finally stopped paying the bill for people who kept disrespecting you. Someone reading the comments tonight may still be holding the checkbook, wondering if love is supposed to cost this much. Tell them the truth. It is not, and the moment you stop paying for your own disrespect, your real life can finally begin. The ultimate lesson here is simple. Loyalty should never bankrupt your bank account, and love should never cost you your dignity. Your self-worth is not measured by how much financial weight you can carry for people who refuse to walk on their own 2 feet. Have you ever had to legally or financially detach from a toxic relative? How did you protect yourself? Drop your survival strategies in the comments below. Hit subscribe for more real talk on protecting your peace, your mind, and your wallet.